So I think the one key factor to know is that geographically it's the biggest state in Pakistan,
Yes.
uh, bordered by both Iran and Afghanistan, has a big coastline as well.
Yes.
Uh, Very rich in terms of natural resources.
Yes.
But those natural resources have been sucked out over the years and
Yes.
used to fuel mainly Punjab, but also the rest of the country.
And Karachi and these places.
While,
Pakistan proper, as a Pakistani analyst calls it.
okay,
But in the sense that this is not really Pakistan in
okay.
that sense.
And effectively, the people of Balochistan are primarily of tribal cultures.
Okay, so you have to understand, if you're talking about the geography of Balochistan, you have to also understand that the northern part of Balochistan in the British days used to be called British Balochistan. That is predominantly Pashtun populated. There are not many Baloch living out there as an ethnic group. The Baloch are mostly in some parts of northeast Balochistan, and then you come down. The central part of Balochistan is mostly tribal. There are big tribes like the Murris, the Mengals, the Maxis, these kind of guys. And then when you come down to the southern belt, the coastal belt, uh, which is called the Makran belt, that is the tribal. There are still tribes out there, but they don't have the same tribal structure which is there in the central and the northeastern parts of Balochistan. So you have to understand, when you talk about the geography, you have to talk about the demographic geography in that context.
Sure. Okay. It's also such a big coastline there.
Yeah.
It's of geopolitical importance.
Yeah, because if you look at the coast, or the port of Gwadar or some of the other ports where even the Pakistanis have built some naval bases, it is virtually on the mouth of the Persian Gulf. And what is the importance of the Persian Gulf is that the entire oil trade from Saudi Arabia and from Iraq and Iran flows through the Persian Gulf, right? So if you are straddling the Persian Gulf, you are in a position to control that entire energy flows out of Persian Gulf. So it's a very vital geography
Okay. You enjoy history in general?
generally.
British occupied India, okay, which is right from our northeast up till Balochistan. Why did it stop at that border? I'm assuming it was because of Ahmad Shah Abdali's Afghan empire.
No, they went into Afghanistan. They tried to occupy Afghanistan. In fact, they had captured Afghanistan, Kabul. They had to fight 3 wars. Um, and they would capture. So, look, the problem with Afghanistan is that it's easy to go in and capture the place, but it's impossible to retain it. Subsequently, now this is what everybody, when historical myth making takes place, everybody says that the Afghans, expelled the British. Yes, they did. But then what did the British do? They came back, they regrouped, and then they attacked Afghanistan again from 2 or 3 directions. And they did what the British always used to do. There was no problem in killing as many people as you wanted to kill. So they carried out these massive raids. They razed villages, towns, and they made their point, but they didn't retain Afghanistan. What they did was they allowed a government of the Afghans, whatever, whoever wanted to, they didn't meddle in that. So they came back. Again, it happened in the 1880s, 1890s, and then again in the 1920s. So there were 3 Afghan wars which were fought. It was just the kind of terrain and the kind of people there are in Afghanistan. And it's not worth it, right? What was the colonial model? The colonial model was that you go into a place, you occupy it, and then you exploit it for economic benefit. The Indian colonies otherwise paid for themselves. India became the jewel, like somebody says that London is an active crime scene because all the wealth they looted from India is, on display in London. Now that that wealth has run out, London is a dump, right? Uh, but this is what it was. So Afghanistan really had no economic benefit for the colonial master. And the British, being the traders that they are, they understood it. So what did they do? Their primary focus was that the Russians further up were coming down south. So then they decided that it is better to have the Afghans as a buffer rather than going into Afghanistan and directly confronting not only the Afghans, but also the Russians. So then they had a certain system where they would subsidize the Afghan kings, and they had that kind of a, so they evolved a system like that, which survived for about 150 years until 9/11, when that system broke down. And once that system has broken down, there is no real new system put in place. So everything is up in the air and there is chaos. So that was Afghanistan. On the other side was Iran. So there were problems with Iran as well. But finally, the British got into a deal with the Iranian, the Persian kings, and you had what is, I think it's called the Goldsmith Line. So they drew that line, which is the border between what is Balochistan now, or what is Pakistan and Balochistan, and what is Iran. And Balochistan straddles three countries. The Baloch lands, as they are. So Baloch are in the sense the Kurds of the subcontinent.
Wow.
Okay. So the Kurds, for example, are in Iran, they are in Iraq, they are in Syria. Okay. And they are in Turkey. They're spread in 4 countries. The Baloch similarly are in Afghanistan. They are in Iran, the eastern part of Iran, which straddles Balochistan, and of course in Balochistan. So that is the kind of the demographic geography, political geography that where Balochistan is located.
Okay. And the reason I asked you all this about Afghan history and Iran is to lead to a chapter on the BLA. Is it important to mention this timeline of history when talking about the 2025 context?
Look, you cannot divorce history from what is happening, especially because that history was never reconciled. If you don't reconcile to history, then those historical problems will erupt in this day and age. Now, which is what I keep telling people, that look, we are looking at, suddenly a train is hijacked with 400 people. It makes news around the world. But that's not the only thing which has happened. And that was not the first thing which has happened, right? It's been continuing. This latest insurgency is already 25 years old. But now it has reached a kind of a point where it has suddenly become really serious, and it is being noticed around the world because of the ferocity and the audacity of the attacks that are taking place.